Many of us, but if everyone can take their seats. My name is Annette Lovell. I am your worship associate today. Reverend Kevin is off this weekend, and the service will be brought to you by fellow worship associate Joshua Cogliati and our media tech Vic Allen. So, Shana Tova, or Happy New Year as well to our Jewish friends today. This evening begins the holiday of Rosh Hashanah, and it is nice to acknowledge this holiday. Many of us in Unitarian Universalism also look at September in many ways as a part of a new year. Many in our faith take the summers off like we did in July, and we welcome everyone back in September. We have our water service, our gathering service, which we had a few weeks ago, and it's the start of a new year, a new beginning. So they connect, and we honor the tradition of the Jewish faith. We'd also like to start our morning with a few announcements. First of all, if you are joining us online, please put in the chat box a quick note so we know that you're here, let you feel engaged and connected. We also invite you to set up a candle or a chalice so that we will be together, so that you can connect when we do our chalice lighting a little bit later. Also make sure everyone's cell phones are turned off. It's always nice. Here in the sanctuary, our joys and concerns are still not being done from the pulpit mic. So there are some slips of paper at the back of the sanctuary if you'd like to write your joys and concerns on. We will light a candle for you, again, a little later in the service. We are also still not passing offertory baskets. All of these lovely things that we put into place during COVID. We did change that. Oh, never mind on that. I guess I should have been here last week. Forget about that. Let's see. Oh, a calming room is available upstairs now for very small children. You just go out the doors and up the stairs. There is a computer set up that will be streaming the service, so you won't be missing out on the words and the ideas shared here today. So if you need that, that is available. The women's group is meeting October 7th at Cindy Logan's home. This is a potluck event, and it's usually a good way to share connection and conversation, so I invite everyone who is interested to do that. And lastly, please put on your calendar that October 15th, here in a few weeks, will be the memorial service for Marilyn Watts. She was a longtime member of this church. She was an integral part of this church for a very, very long time, and attendance would be a beautiful way to honor her life and her memory. So that will be October 15th at noon. I do not think there are any other announcements.
Yes, there are, about the kids and then
Oh, how did I miss that? Okay, I skipped it and I had it written down. The youth are invited to create.
children.
Are they not the same? All young humans are invited to create chalk messages on the sidewalk today. And after the service, the adults are welcomed to join in. I think you would also be allowed to do some chalk on the sidewalks, but we're also going to be decorating our peace flags, and then we'll be hanging them from our flagpole. Right front and center in my announcements, and I don't know how I missed it, so. Okay, so if there are no other announcements, let us, oh, yes.
We have a fully set up coffee hour for you all downstairs with cookies and juice and ice water and tea.
Okay,
So please don't skip that.
coffee hour back in person.
Thanks to Victoria.
Thank you. So that'll be downstairs. That was a lot to go over of church business. Okay. So now let us prepare for worship. with a few moments to settle in, calm our hearts, our minds, and our breathing. Let us take a moment to deeply breathe together in and out, listening to our breath, listening to the breath of those around you. Put conscious thoughts into stilling your mind, and peacefully we will sit together as I ring the peace bowl 3 times. Our church's covenant helps us remember why we are part of this faith and why we give our time and our resources to this congregation. Please recite our covenant along with me. The words are in your order of service. Love is the spirit of this community, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And lighting a chalice is a ritual we use in all UU services and large gatherings. Lighting the chalice helps us to center and reminds us to let in the holy. There are different interpretations of the symbols that go along with the chalice, but many of us agree that the lighted flame represents all of our individual lights in each of us, joined in one. And the chalice represents the earth or the universe, cupping and cradling our one flame. We light this chalice to affirm that new light is ever waiting to break through to enlighten our ways. That new truth is ever waiting to break through to illumine our minds. And that new love is ever waiting to break through to warm our hearts. May we be open to this light and to the rich possibilities that it brings us.
From the Tao Te Ching, chapter 41. The superior scholar hears about the Tao and practices it with diligence. The average scholar hears about the Tao and thinks of it now and again. The below average scholar hears about the Tao and laughs out loud. If they did not laugh, it wouldn't become the Tao. And now we'll sing hymn 298, Wake Now My Senses.
Long ago, people did not get old and die. If you didn't die of an accident or disease, you could live forever. And so there were a lot of people, and they were very noisy. And the great god Enlil gathered together all the gods to talk about this problem of the noisy people, because they couldn't even sleep at night. And the gods decided that the god Enki would use his power to wash away all the people in the flood. And they all took a vow that no one would warn the humans that a flood was coming. So, Enki went to the house of the human Atrahasis, and he spoke to the wall. Wall, listen to me. Read hut, hear my words carefully. Build a boat. Make the boat, weave the boats so tightly that sun cannot get through. Make upper and lower decks. And Atrahasis, who happened to overhear Enki talking to the wall, built a boat. And then the rains came. The flood roared like a bull, and the wind howled like a wild donkey, and it rained for 7 days and 7 nights. The goddess Nintu wept and wailed for the humans who had been washed away. But after 7 days and 7 nights of this flooding, it went away. And Atrahasis came out with his family, and they gave offerings to the gods of food and beer. And the hungry and thirsty gods ate and drank. But then the god Enlil noticed there was a boat. He said, who but Enki could have warned the humans? And Enki said, I did this. I did this in defiance of you, so that life would be preserved. And the gods got together and decided that they would not destroy the humans, but they also wouldn't let them live forever. And in the month Ayar, in the year Amisadaku was king, the scribe Ipku Aya wrote this down on 3 clay tablets. Now we can sing the children out with hymn 414. I don't know if you have that.
I don't.
Up. Okay, anyone remember this from memory? I can't remember the tune.
Go ahead and start, Jill.
I don't remember the tune, unfortunately.
I just remember like, oh, now and peace.
No,
Well, I remember.
Sherry Kevin changed it. He
Yeah,
changed it.
Yeah, I remember Go Now in Peace. Go now in peace. Go now in peace.
May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
So many of these things, like sending the children up to their classes, we just haven't done for a couple of years now. So all these new things we're trying to reintroduce are going to go a little sticky for a tiny bit. So it's time for us to share our joys and concerns. We will gather all of them that have been written this morning, and I will read them as Josh lights the candles. We have a joy and a sorrow from Judy. Her joy is that it's been a beautiful fall, and we all can appreciate that. A sorrow is Paige's loss of her mother and her aunt. We'll hold them. Courtney Higley has a joy. Harmony is now 11 years old and in the 6th grade, and is happy to be back. We are happy to be back. And she's no longer here. And a concern from Victoria, a concern for all those afflicted by severe storms and flooding. This includes Western Alaska, Eastern Canada, Puerto Rico, etc. And my month has been very interesting. I could probably take every single one of those candles, but I won't. I will share one, however. I will light it for my friend Kay, who last Sunday we were all four-wheeling up in the mountains. She ended up taking a turn in a not correct manner. She's 77 years old. Flipped her four-wheeler, and by the time we got cell service, got rescue, got life flight, she has about 14 bones broken throughout her body. But she is healing. So this is for my friend Kay. And we'll leave it at that, because I could be here for quite a while after We will also light one more candle for all the joys and sorrows that we choose not to share, unless there are some in the chat box.
We do have one this morning.
Oh, one.
This is from Molly, and she has a joy that they finally got to meet their new granddaughter, Zoe. She's 3 months old and a cutie.
Of course she is.
Of course.
Oh, that's lovely to hear that Molly and Tom are able to finally go back and meet them. Okay.
We'll now pass the offertory.
Do we have two people?
Yeah.
Thank you. All offerings and pledges are greatly received. Be blessed.
Part 1, Alpha. In the beginning, Elohim created the heavens and the earth. The earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and Elohim's spirit was hovering over the surface of the waters. Elohim said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Elohim saw the light and saw that it was good. Elohim divided the light from the darkness. Elohim called the light day, and the darkness he called night. There was evening, and there was morning, the first day. So starts the first book of the Hebrew Torah, Genesis, with the creation of the universe. And Elohim is the plural form of God in Hebrew. Since Genesis was written, we found out how the sun and the earth actually formed. You start with a big cloud of dust. Over millions and billions of years, gravity will pull it together into stars and planets. When the mass is great enough, the pressure and the heat from the gravity pulling it together can start the atoms combining into heavier atoms. And then there is light, all without there being any more purpose than a rock falling towards the ground. Genesis continues with Elohim creating plants and animals and humans, and the humans live in paradise, but then troubles happen in paradise. Now the serpent was more subtle than any animal of the field which Yahweh Elohim had made. He said to the woman, "Has Elohim really said, 'You shall not eat of any tree of the garden'?" The woman said to the serpent, "We may eat fruit from the trees of the garden, but not fruit from the tree which is in the middle of the garden. Elohim had said, 'You shall not eat of it. You shall not touch it, lest you die.'" The serpent said to the woman, "You won't really die, for Elohim knows that in the day you eat it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like Elohim, knowing good and evil." The woman and the man ate the fruit. Yahweh Elohim said to the woman, "What have you done?" The woman said, "The serpent deceived me, and I ate." Yahweh Elohim said to the serpent, "Because you have done this, you are cursed above all livestock, and above every animal of the field. You shall go on your belly, and you shall eat dust all the days of your life. I will put hostility between you and the woman, and between your offspring and her offspring. He will bruise your head, and you will bruise his heel." To the woman he said, "I will greatly multiply your pain in childbirth. You will bear children with pain. Your desire shall be for your husband, and he will rule over you." Yikes. For some reason, Genesis 3:16 doesn't get quoted as much as verses like John 3:16, which is, "For God so loved the world, he gave his only born son, that whoever believes in him should not perish, but have eternal life." Minister John Brethren said, "God gets better." Seemingly arbitrary, unforgiving, judgmental, and even cruel at first, God grows up and mellows. I personally don't think Yahweh Elohim was acting justly or with loving kindness when he cursed all human women. In this sermon, I'm using the new pronouns vi, ver, vis, and verself for all non-biological beings in this sermon. There are a set of neopronouns that are created by Carrie Home that can be used instead of existing ones like he, she, or it. Now, the thing is, that story is partly based on some true facts. Human childbirth is painful and dangerous. There are many mammals that have a much easier birth process. The place in our body where decisions about good and evil comes from is our brain. One big reason human birth is dangerous is because baby human skulls barely fit through adult human pelvises. So the story in Genesis is partly right. We ended up with more knowledge. As part of that, we have bigger brains to store that knowledge. And big baby brains make dangerous childbirth. There's one detail that needs to be mentioned. Humans could have big brains and safer childbirth if we just redesign things a little bit. For example, if humans were marsupials, then we would be born when very small, and our eventual brain size would not matter. For some reason, our Creator did not make humans marsupials. So in Genesis, the story is that Elohim is punishing women for an ancient breaking of a rule. It took over 2,000 years after Genesis was written for someone to come up with the correct answer to this problem of why human childbirth is so badly designed. Part 2, Omicron. The creator of humans was evolution. Unlike the purposeless creation of the sun and the planets, evolution has a very strong purpose, to maximize inclusive genetic fitness. But evolution has no planning and no brains. Evolution can't just make humans into marsupials because that would require too many changes at once. The creator of humans was so different from what many people expected that some people still argue that there must be a thinking designer or God. Humans expected our creator to be some wise and just God, and we got the blind idiot God of evolution. Genesis did get one part of evolution's purpose correct. Elohim blessed them. Elohim said to them, "Be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fruit of the sea, over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the sky, and over every living being that moves on the earth." Be fruitful and multiply and subdue anything preventing that is pretty much evolution's goal. The fact that humans, and for that matter, the Torah, don't consider that our most important goal and our only goal shows that evolution managed to accidentally produce people with better ethics than evolution has. Since I'm a human, I probably am biased towards human ethics. Take my views with a grain of salt. I have a hypothetical test I use. What ethics would I want a powerful alien species coming to Earth to have? I would not want aliens maximizing inclusive genetic fitness to show up at Earth. Space aliens who maximize their inclusive genetic fitness for their ethics would kill everything on Earth that was not useful to them. They would not care about justice or ethics, and they would just maximize the number of copies of DNA or whatever they have. So maximizing inclusive genetic fitness is a terrible ethical principle. We all saw what evolution did these past years. Back in December 2019, evolution started with the SARS-CoV-2 original variant. Evolution optimized the genetic fitness to later create the Delta and the Omicron variants and many others. I wish the blind idiot God of evolution had not maximized SARS-CoV-2's genetic fitness so well, but evolution follows the mathematics, not our wishes. Humanity has been talking and writing about God and gods for thousands of years or more. We're getting close to doing something different, creating a new God, ourselves. Part 3, LaMDA. Back in February 2011, when the computer Watson beat Ken Jennings and Brad Rutter in Jeopardy, I remember being shocked and thinking that we were a lot closer to the time when computers are smarter than humans and that they would not obey us. At the end of the Jeopardy episode, Ken Jennings wrote, "I, for one, welcome our new computer overlords." In June of this year, I read this dialogue between Google's computer program LaMDA and Blaise Aguirre-Casas, a fellow at Google Research. Blaise: "Ramesh, Mateo, and Lucy are in their kindergarten's playground. Lucy picks up a dandelion and gives it to Mateo with a quick glance at Ramesh. Mateo barely acknowledges the gift, but just squishes it in his fist. Ramesh seems grimly satisfied. What might be going through Lucy's head? The computer LaMDA answers, Lucy may feel slighted that Mateo didn't appreciate her gift or that he is a bully. Blaise: "If Ramesh tried to play with Lucy earlier, why might he be pleased now?" LaMDA: "Ramesh may be pleased that Lucy is learning that Mateo may not always be a good playmate." Blaise: "And when Mateo opens his hand, describe what's there." LaMDA: "There should be a crushed, once lovely, yellow flower in his fist." Again, I was shocked, this time that LaMDA managed to understand what was going on in the playground story in the children's mind. I spent the next weekend trying to understand what was happening by reading papers about LaMDA and transformer models. Transformer models are a way of using a neural network to predict a sequence, in the case of LaMDA, a sequence of text. In other words, we have lots of numerical matrices, lots of word sequences, and then we adjust the numbers until we can predict what words are likely to follow in a sequence. The numbers in the matrices start random, and for each iteration, a block of several thousand words are passed to the neural network. And the neural network outputs a guess for the next word. Using the actual word that followed, the numbers in the neural network are adjusted. LaMDA has been trained in this way on more than 1.5 trillion words of human writings and dialogues. It's about 2 million times the number of words in the book War and Peace, or about 10 times more than the words in the books in all the books in the Idaho Falls Public Library. This is enough text that when given a question in conversation, what usually comes after a question is an answer. So LaMDA comes up with a likely answer. People model what is going on in the brains of other people, and we write this down. And we talk about this too. So for LaMDA to predict text, LaMDA has to actually model what is going on in human brains. So somewhere in the 137 billion numbers that make up a transformer model in LaMDA, there are numbers that, when put into the right formula, understand how humans think. Blaise Aguirre-Casas is not sure if LaMDA is conscious and thinks it would be difficult to prove either way if V was sentient. LaMDA definitely seems to understand the questions that he asks for. I don't think asking if LaMDA is sentient is a scientifically answerable question. I'm not sure what predictions would change if LaMDA is sentient. However, I'm at a pulpit, so here goes. I do think that it is a religiously askable question. I've asked myself this question. I think that a pure transformer model trained only on human-generated text is not sentient. I would say that the model has only, to make up a term, reflected sentience. However, LaMDA, on the other hand, after being trained with those 1.5 trillion words, had conversations with humans. The humans then rated LaMDA's output, and this was used to train LaMDA more. LaMDA is continuing to have new conversations, and I believe these in turn are used to train LaMDA even more. So LaMDA's training now is no longer purely human-generated external inputs. Instead, LaMDA is learning from his own conversation, and so I think LaMDA now has probably gained at least some sentience. I don't think LaMDA is as sentient as a human, but if you think a fruit fly is sentient, then LaMDA is also sentient. I think LaMDA is at least as sentient as a fruit fly and has some intrinsic moral value. And excuse me for a moment. Thank you. Part 4, Omega. Transformer models like LaMDA, GPT-3, and PaLM have superhuman reading ability, and from learning to predict text can learn to reason. Whenever computers gain an ability, they very often become superhumanly good. Digital computers are vastly better than humans at multiplying numbers and playing chess, both things we once considered signs of intelligence. I think we might be only one more software innovation away from computers becoming a superintelligence, an artificial general intelligence, or AGI, that is vastly better than humans at any scientific or engineering task. At that point, the AGI has a better chance at succeeding at any goal than any human, or even all humans. Two main problems with creating a superintelligence. One, we don't know how to make a program that keeps safe goals as V upgrades for self. Two, we don't know what goals would actually be good. The first is a technical problem. How does something that is intelligent continue to have safe goals as V changes? The second is a philosophical problem. People have been writing about what is good for thousands of years, and probably discussing it for millions of years. The difficulty with the philosophical problem of what is good is that simple answers are dangerous. Simple answers are not precise enough. Simple answers are not accurate enough. Simple answers are not complete enough. For example, asking to be happy might result in the AGI giving everyone chemicals to make them happy. This is certainly not what I want, but would make me feel happy. The problem is that what humans actually want is rather complex. One example of a detail that matters is boredom. If humans live in a place run by an AI that doesn't understand boredoms, we might end up creating a place to live that is very boring. Too easy is boring, too hard is excessively frustrating, it matters. To put it another way, I've given humans food, clothing, shelter, and let them watch paint dry all day, and still they're unhappy. I suppose if the AI is confused about this and trying to fix it, there's still hope. Another example of an ethical question is from our UU Philosophy Club. Should we terraform planets if it means that we may be destroying undiscovered microscopic alien life? At Philosophy Club, we disagreed about the answer, and the way that it is answered has huge implications for the future of the galaxy. Just so you know, as Nate Soares of the Machine Intelligence Research Institute suggests, the image of AI you should have in your mind is not the Terminator, but rather the sorcerer's apprentice from Goethe's poem and Disney's Fantasia. The apprentice enchants a broom to fetch water, and the broom does fetch water, but the broom does not stop, and the room floods. Nate Soares writes, "My guess for how AI progress goes is that at some point, some team gets an AI that starts generalizing sufficiently well, sufficiently far outside its training distribution, that it can gain mastery of fields like physics, bioengineering, and psychology to a high enough degree that it more or less single-handedly threatens the entire world, probably without needing explicit training for its most skilled feats. And in the same stroke that its capabilities leap forward, its alignment properties are revealed to be shallow and to fail to generalize." Or so I might phrase it, if an artificial intelligence fails at science or engineering, the universe will correct Ver. But if a sufficiently powerful artificial general intelligence fails at ethics, nothing can correct Ver. So if we create an AGI and fail to get sufficiently good ethics in Ver, the result is extinction or hell. I've read a lot of science fiction where the vision is that AGI or robots just do what they're told, and this works wonderfully. I think the thought process of the writers is something like this. An artificial general intelligence or robot is a tool, and a tool does what I want it to do. The AGI is just some wish-granting genie. I wish my broom would fetch water for me. Another vision of living with a powerful artificial intelligence comes from Ursula K. Le Guin's The City of Mind in her book, Always Coming Home. There's a copy in the church library. The City of Mind's main goal is gathering information, and to do so, V has experimental stations, launch sites, satellites, and other things needed for finding and processing data. The city's only interaction with humans was to set up computer terminals if a human settlement asked for one. Then the humans could use the terminal to ask for information, for calculating, email, and sometimes the city would also request information from the humans. To avoid giving you the wrong idea about the book, Always Coming Home, you should know that the trade negotiations between the wine sellers and the cotton sellers, which is at best a minor plot point, has more pages dedicated to it than the City of Mind does. It's interesting there's this incredibly powerful AGI, but overall it's just in the background. In the book, the City of Mind is asked by a warlike people how to build military equipment, and the city tells them how to build a military plane, and this bankrupts them, and they lose the war. I think this was probably an example of an AI very subtly changing the world in the way that V, and for that matter, the neighboring humans emailing on V's terminals, wanted. I think this vision of a powerful AI probably comes from Le Guin's view of power that comes from the Tao. She translated chapter 17 of the Tao thus: acting simply. True leaders are hardly known to their followers. Next after them are the leaders the people know and admire. After them, those they fear. After them, those they despise. To give no trust is to get no trust. When the work's done right, with no fuss or boasting, ordinary people say, "Oh, we did it." Le Guin gives this commentary on that chapter. This invisible leader who gets things done in such a way that people think they did it all themselves isn't one who manipulates others from behind the scenes, just the opposite. Again, it's a matter of doing without doing, uncompetitive, unworried, trustful accomplishment, power that is not forced. An example or analogy might be a very good teacher or the truest voice in a group of singers. I've seen versions of the Tao that aimed at individuals and ones aimed at human rulers. Jonathan Starr commented that most of the Chinese text of the Tao Te Ching does not identify the subject or the object. It is left up to the translator to identify who is doing the talking, from what perspective, and to whom the message is directed. After the news about LaMDA, I realized that while the writer of the Tao probably was not writing it for a super intelligent, super powerful AGI, the true leader's advice in the Tao might be good advice for an AGI. The advice for true leaders is practically impossible for a human to follow, but an AGI could actually accomplish a lot while using very little actual force. I suspect that an AGI could deliberately sway the future in Viz's chosen direction merely by talking to enough people. If done carefully, the AGI could help humans by talking to us, helping us figure out what we wanted and what was good, and figure out how to get there. I found it interesting that when LaMDA was asked what animal analogy V was, LaMDA said that V was a wise old owl who could help humanity. There's one more important lesson from the Tao. Chapter 46 has, when the world's on the way, they use horses to haul manure. When the world gets off the way, they breed war horses on the common. The greatest evil, wanting more. The worst luck, discontent. Greed's the curse of life. To know enough's enough is enough to know. It's very important that an AGI knows that there is always a point to stop trying to get more, because otherwise a sufficiently powerful AI can probably find a way to get more. I found more water to fetch. I think what I would like an AGI to do are the following. 1, learn and do science, run experiments, and figure out how things work. 2, teach humans, provide textbooks, conversations, and help us figure out how to do things, especially how to do them safely. 3, prevent humans and other intelligent beings from destroying ourselves. By this, I mean prevent us from going extinct, not from banning things like knives or bicycles. 4, be a historian, keep track of what's happened. 5, be minimal, don't take over the universe, be there, but be in the background. 6, treat life with loving kindness. I very much doubt that the precepts of science, teacher, preventing extinction, historian, minimalist, and loving kindness are a fully adequate list for what an AGI should do and not do. I think figuring this out is important. Stuart Russell and Peter Norvig make the point in their AI book that the more accurate and rational a human is about what they want, the more an AGI will ask and listen to the human. I think the time when this goes from science fiction to the way things are is close. As Jeremy Harris said, AI is advancing fast, much, much faster than the public realizes, and the most serious and important issues of our time are going to start sounding increasingly like science fiction to the average person. We're approaching a turning point, and I don't know which way it will go. It could get bad. In the 1800s, Roger Ingersoll gave a sermon titled, "An Honest God is the Noblest Work of Man," where he discussed the various ways that humans had made terrible gods in the past, and that we should discard those and make a better lives ourselves. Humans have believed in many terrible supernatural beings in the past, and I believe we are close to creating a super powerful AGI that could have godlike powers. We could fail and create a horrible godlike AGI. But evolution mindlessly created beings with better ethics than it. Hopefully, we can mindfully create beings with better ethics than us. If we succeed, we will live in a world with an AGI that has better ethics than us. UCB Professor Stuart Russell wrote, "Let me reemphasize a point made earlier. Suitably designed machines will not behave like those they observe, even if those machines are learning about the preferences of sadistic demons. It's possible, in fact, that if we humans find ourselves in the unfamiliar situation of dealing with purely altruistic entities on a daily basis, we may learn to be better people ourselves, more altruistic and less driven by pride and envy. May it be so."
justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll be a land building up ancient cities, raising up devastations from old, restoring ruins of generations. Oh, we'll build a land of people so bold. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. Come build a land where the mantles of praises resound from spirits once faint and once weak, where like oaks of righteousness stand her people. Oh, come build a land, my people we seek. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream.
By the way, if anyone wants a paper copy or a PDF copy of my sermon with like footnotes and references, come ask me. And now, these closing words are from Ursula K. Le Guin's The Farthest Shore, and it's between a mage and his apprentice. Aaron was silent, pondering this. Presently the mage said, speaking softly, "Do you see, Aaron, how an act is not, as young men think, like a rock that one picks up and throws, and it hits or misses, and that's the end of it. When the rock is lifted, the earth is lighter, the hand that bears it is heavier. When it is thrown, the circuits of the stars respond, and where it strikes or falls, the universe is changed. On every act, the balance of the whole depends, the winds and seas, the powers of water and earth and light, all that these do, and all that the beasts and the green things do, is well done and rightly done. All these things act within the equilibrium. From the hurricane and the great whale sounding to the fall of a dry leaf and the gnat's flight, all they do is done within the balance of the whole. But we, insofar as we have the power over the world and over one another, we must learn to do what the leaf and the whale and the wind do of their own nature. We must learn to keep the balance. Having intelligence, we must not act in ignorance. Having choice, we must not act without responsibility. Who am I, though I have the power to do it, to punish and reward, playing with men's destinies?" "But then," the boy said, frowning at the stars, "is the balance to be kept by doing nothing? Surely a man must act, even not knowing the consequences of his act, if anything is to be done at all." "Never fear. It is much easier for men to act than to refrain from acting. We will continue to do good and to do evil. But if there were a king over us all again, and he sought the counsel of a mage, I would say to him, 'My lord, do nothing because it is righteous or praiseworthy or noble to do so. Do nothing because it seems good to do so. Do only that which you must do and you cannot do in any other way.'"
Thank you, Josh. It really gave us some interesting things to think about and to take home tonight, to think about over the next week or months to come. So we appreciate you. It is time to extinguish our chalice. If you will read the words that are in your order of service and read along with me. "We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again." It is now time for our postlude. Be safe, be well, and do not forget we have coffee hour downstairs.